But since you did make contact at some points with our public safety staff, I think this will probably be a question. They could probably answer some questions by just maybe giving their perspective of what's happened here. I know I have a couple questions, but I would ask Director Hall to either direct the captains or to make comment, or if you can kind of comment on this for us at this time, I would appreciate some explanation as in a response to Mr. Kushner's comments.
Certainly, Mr. President, and Captain Deven and Captain Crone are both online with us tonight for the meeting. Mr. Kushner is correct. We did have an original conversation. I think mainly it was email exchanges, and conceptually, I mean, we agree with anything that could happen in order to take narcotics off, out of circulation. A year ago, we didn't have any issue with that. It was with a caveat that we would look into it, specifically the logistics. I actually had a conversation with Mr. Radovich as well, and have had some since then. The issue in discussing it with Captain Crone, and I'm not sure how Captain Deven got involved, because EMS has never had anything essentially to do with a box here. That is the police department's responsibility, and there is an evidentiary piece to that. Actually, Dave Ickler empties that box with someone with him when it's done. It is under constant surveillance through cameras and locked down overnight. So I know from a security perspective, when we get finished with the original conversations, the logistics became a problem, and we never got to the point of saying where the box would be. It just did not. It was not something that because of the difficulties that we would have, and we don't know how many times we would be making a trip, going over to a site that we don't control. We were concerned with the liability and with the security, even if it's in a so-called secure location. So that's what ended up taking us away from agreeing or being able to say, yes, we'll follow up and we'll see if we can make this happen. So I know that Captain Crone has had considerable discussion about this too, so he's more than welcome to add his position.
Certainly. The places mentioned, like Shippensburg University and Messiah University, they have paid school police there that are responsible for the security of those boxes. Their personnel would certainly empty that. To speak to the point of emptying 2 or 3 times a year, the box at the township building is emptied at least once a week. So I think the picture there is probably being woefully underestimated as far as how often we'd be there. It does require 2 personnel to witness the sealing of the material. And really the staff time to go up and empty the box on whatever basis it would be, it's really providing kind of an individual service. And at what point does that end? Does each retirement community or private business or what have you request a box, and we grant them the box, and then we spend our entire time running around emptying boxes? Our location at the township building is secure. It's not accessible 24 hours a day. It's only accessible when people are at the township building, monitoring what's going in and out of the box. It's on camera. Even before we were a little bit less vigilant at the office there, and we were getting liquids, needles, and other inappropriate items in there. We even had our evidence technician suffer a needle stick and have to get a variety of shots and blood tests and things like that. We're trying to avoid that situation. To have a box of medicines off-site that as soon as stuff goes in that box, it becomes our box. We're responsible for what's in there. To have it out of our purview is not something the police department should be taking on, nor the township taking on that liability and responsibility. We don't want to repeat the experience with inappropriate items getting into the box. And we want to have that monitoring to be able to halt prohibited items going into the box. So with all that said, I think there are commercial entities available for this type of thing that could be the better solution for that. But I don't think that providing that service to an individual community within the township is a fair and equitable thing to do. And nor is it something that the police department is willing to take on from an evidentiary standpoint. And it would be, as explained there, an evidentiary standpoint, because it does have to be treated like evidence, packaged, sealed, boxed, and then transported to the county, where it has to be turned over to them for destruction. So there's a lot more in the back end than one might think. And for that, we're rather not do this particular service on a private, semi-private basis.
We
Mr.
had,
President, well,
we had identified also, when we say commercial, we're not talking about a disposal company that would go to Bethany and pick the box up and take care of disposal. I mean, a lot of what goes in these boxes are scheduled drugs that are federally controlled. So what we propose is when I had some elective surgery, I got a packet from my pharmacy. Essentially, it's an envelope that you take the label off your pill box, you fill it with water, you put this, and some of you may be familiar with it, you put this substance in, it dissolves the drug, and then at that point, it deactivates it, and you can put the cap back on and actually throw it in the regular trash. And I know from an ecology point of view, they might look at that and say not, but the company says it's ecologically sound. So, I mean, I think that there are commercial solutions that could be available that I don't know if they've looked into, but it certainly is a lot simpler and a lot safer than having a container full of Schedule 1 or Schedule 2 or some federally restricted drugs.
Mr. Kushner, if you just, thank you. Mr. Kushner, if you can write down your comments and questions, I do want to get around to the commissioners, and then we'll let you come back through. No problem.
Sure.
I'll afford you all the time you need. I just want to make sure the commissioners can ask their questions as well. So from the public safety standpoint, we'll probably get back to you guys. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions. I'm going to open this up now for the commissioners. So whatever commissioner jumps in first, we'll just go like that.
Mr. President, I understand what the captain is telling us, but I just don't understand how harmless unused drugs would be considered evidence. There's nothing to do with any crimes. And why is it? I think I understand that perhaps we don't have the manpower or there's a lot to manage this, but what's with this evidence deal?
Well, they're not harmless unused drugs. They're scheduled substances. They're narcotics, things like that.
But I, as an individual, used them. I didn't commit any crimes when I no longer needed it. That's what I'm looking at.
But people who do want to use them know where these boxes are, know how to abuse it. We don't vet the employees, certainly at Bethany Village or anywhere else, as far as who comes and goes or who might have access to that box. So that's, again, a business that we don't want to get into, is vetting the employees at a place where we want to put another box.
So, Captain, other than what Director Hall has suggested with respect to this solution, what is the solution for these people to unload these drugs?
Solutions for this can include pharmacies that take the drugs. The chemical solution that Director Hall put up. There are private companies that will put a box there that they would be responsible for, and they would come and collect under a whole different set of circumstances. But when we become responsible for the drugs, even our accreditation requires that the property has to be accounted for in such a way that it becomes burdensome to have a private, essentially, and I can keep calling this a private service because it is. We're not putting boxes all over the place for people. For other neighborhoods and things like that. So this is a special service we're providing to a special population that we don't provide to everybody else, and it would be impractical to provide to everybody else.
I get it.
Captain
Thank
Cron,
you.
I'm going to jab in here real quick because you said something that I want to clarify. The accreditation, so are you saying that by taking this on, the CALIA accreditation would get like more, you'd be more responsible with what their requirements are to maintain, our standing?
Correct. There's a level of accountability there that is required of our accredited status that we really can't have a quote unquote temporary property box off-site like that out of the control of the agency. It has to be taken into the control of the agency.
Is that something that, if you wind up at the accreditation hearings down the road here, they would pick up on if we didn't take action and perhaps not,
Well, it becomes an integrity thing for one thing, because it would be a problem lying in wait. They may never know about it. They may never see it. They may never catch it in the files, but it's something that would be outside of the conventional purview there. That,
Right.
When they do get it and when they do say, hey, why do you have this offsite container for drugs that's out of your control? There's no accountability here. How do you explain that? And why are you doing this program? So, we could probably do it and they may never know about it. But again, it becomes an integrity thing. I think we're kind of skirting the standards there if we do that.
So you're saying, what I'm hearing here is that it's potential then to maintain the integrity with the CLIA accreditation, you'd have to potentially actually come up with a way to handle it properly, which could be an external source, which would just cost, it'd be like a service the township would have to pay for.
Well, essentially, we can do it, but the problem, it would be probably cost prohibitive, I guess, because I don't know how we would do it, to be honest. In order to have, and I don't know what the secure location that Bethany is proposing to put it, whether it's in an office or in a hallway where people can see it and access it, but it's on camera, but it's near a front desk. But we don't know who those people are. We haven't vetted those people. And we say it's simply outside of our control. And if it's going to be something we're responsible for, it has to be within our control, within our evidence room, within the township building. When the box is full and people start, trying to jam stuff in, there's nobody there to tell us, hey, the box is full or the box is getting full. I know we check ours daily to make sure that it doesn't overflow. Maybe not daily, but several times a week, Dave Ickler's checking the box to make sure it doesn't overflow and it has to be emptied. So all kinds of problems I would just foresee having this offsite thing.
Captain, is this something that, do you think that the Bethany Village could look into managing and handling for its residents?
I do. I think there are commercial entities out there, commercial drug disposal entities out there that Bethany could contact, and certainly there would be a fee. But it is a commercial enterprise that, frankly, we probably shouldn't be infringing upon as government.
Yeah, I think private industry should do more. Okay,
Uh,
thank you.
Captain, I have a couple of questions. First, you mentioned the colleges and universities that have boxes have their own university police. Is the difference here, are they sworn police officers versus paid security? Is that the difference? I know Bethany Village has security, but is your concern, Captain, that they're not sworn police officers and therefore not able to do the evidentiary things that they would need to?
That is correct. They're like Messiah University. They're not full-fledged Act 120 police officers, but they are private police. They have that relationship where they're delivering, I'm going to assume that they're delivering the drugs. They're taking responsibility for the drugs. They're delivering them to the DA's office. I don't think they work through Upper Allen to do that. And Shippensburg University has police. So they're handling their own situation there too.
Okay.
It's not a private security. It's recognized private police.
So my other question would be, those boxes, does the county pay for them or do the universities themselves pay for them? Do you happen to know?
I do not. I think the county supplied our box and it supplies all the boxes to the municipalities. I would think that the county probably supplies the boxes to these locations as well, but with the understanding that they have their private police forces as opposed to relying on municipal support.
So if the county were to pay for a box, would it at some other part in the county, there's no way that local police are doing the pickups for it? Is that what you're saying?
I don't believe that they would be.
Okay. And it would be their private police that would be doing it. I presume. So, because my question was, we have a detective detailed to the county and we pretty much don't get any money for it. And my thought would be if the county can pay for the box and do the pickup themselves as a way to repay us for the for having the detective on the drug task force, that would be one idea. I don't know if someone could maybe.
I can speak to that.
Go ahead.
The county simply won't do that. They won't go around collecting. They've denied us. They've denied other agencies. Becomes our responsibility to package it up and deliver it to you.
All right. Well, I appreciate your candor, Captain, and your comments. Thank you. Mr. President, I believe you're still muted.
Thank you. Commissioner Black, Commissioner Shin, do you guys have anything else to add or have any questions?
I do not, Mr. President. Thank you.
I have to come down on the side of Captain Crone and Director Hall. I know how tight the scheduling is for Captain Crone, and I think it's a business that we don't want to be in.
Is that it?
That's it.
Mr. President, if I could take a bite out of the apple, one more bite. I guess my only concern is for Mr. Kushner, how we did this major reversal. Captain, can you speak to that at all as to how we let them think that this was going to happen only to find out we can't do it?
As to my part, I don't know that Mr. Kushner and I had a conversation. And I think that may have been some misunderstandings through the chain there, because EMS can't legally take the drugs. But I think there was a thought that they might have been able to do that. Then there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen there, but none of them. It didn't really come down to the police department, who would ultimately be responsible for this, being in the process.
I guess he mentioned Director Hall and Captain Deven. I guess that's.
Mr. I think up front, what I had said upon first notice was conceptually, I mean, I think taking drugs, and making sure they're secure is a good thing.
Mhm.
But that was the early thought before we actually started looking at the logistics, the costs, and how we would go about doing it. We didn't have any details when we conceptually said, maybe it's not a bad thing. But as we examined it with the police department and EMS, we can't even do it. We're prohibited by state law from having any kind of contact other than what our protocol drugs and the drugs that we use. We can't touch those drugs.
Mhm.
So it rolled back to the police department chain of custody and the impact that it would have on their operations, including Dave Ickler, and the problems would have been. And that's when the tide turned. Unfortunately, it was not quick, because the initial discussion started pre-COVID. COVID hit us, and as Mr. Kushner said, it kind of went on the back burner.
Sure.
Until it came back up again in discussion. And by that time, we had thought it through more logically and with more detail. And we said, it really isn't something that we can do for a variety of reasons.
Director Hall, I'm curious, public safety officers, would this be something they would be able to handle, or do you need a sworn officer to do that?
Now, again, they're not, they don't do evidentiary control in our department. So it's something, and Dave Ickler's our evidence custodian, which is why he gets charged to do this. There's a whole detailed thing that he has to account for when the box is opened, what's taken out of there. It's got to go through the police department records, and they're for the evidence. And then he actually physically has to take it down to the county, to Eric Radnovich's shop, and turn them over. There's signatures involved in that process to attest to the fact that this is what I retrieved, this is what I transported, this is what I am surrendering.
All right, and is Dave the only one who does that with our box?
Or Leon, as far as I know, he's the guy. We may have other evidence technicians that could, but I think Dave's primarily charged with that.
Dave is the only civilian that handles that. If Dave's not available to handle that, we tie up a detective with it.
Director Hall, question for you, I guess, or Captain. Um, are you familiar at all with any possible grants that would be out there afforded to private entities, let's say, you know, on the public safety side or you know, that out there for, you know, as they're trying to fight the drug crisis, I mean, that would be available to entities like Bethany Village. You know, that I don't know, that the township could help liaison or point them in that direction to a particular grant that would help them pay for a service.
I'm not familiar. It's not something that, you know, we couldn't look into. The other thing is, you know, whether Rite Aid and or CVS does any of that type of outreach. I'm not familiar with that. But the packets that I'm talking about, when I got my scheduled drug, I never used, and so they basically gave the packet along with the medication and said, if you don't use it here, you can destroy it utilizing this neutralizing packet, which I did. So I know that that there could be some pharmacies that would participate in that. Again, we've not looked into that because we've not needed to do that.
Okay. Well, could I just ask you then, just to take a broad look, maybe in the next couple of days or during the next week, if there happens to be something, just if there's a low-hanging fruit, perhaps on a grant that could, you know, that are aimed at private entities,
Right.
Maybe you can ask around in your network. That would be maybe that would help.
Yep. Absolutely.
Commissioners, are you good with your questions and comments on this issue?
Well, Mr. President, if I may, so I'm a little torn here because on the one hand, there is unquestionably value to our residents and taxpayers to have these drugs safely removed from the community. To me, it is a public safety issue, and I understand the concern. So I guess my issue is, as the non-expert, hearing the experts say, you know, we don't think it's feasible, but so what I'm grappling with here is, I feel like if we can do something to help alleviate this, we should. I don't know what the answer to that is. You know, whether it's asking Bethany to have someone do a collection and bring it all to our box, the building. Look, we have, as Mr. Kushner mentioned, we have 630 constituents there. So, you know, I understand Captain's point about doing this for one group in the community, but we don't have a group like Bethany Village, except for Bethany Village. You know, we have other retirement communities and whatnot, but it is kind of a unique situation. So that's why I'm willing to take a unique look here at it. Director Hall, do we have any idea what the cost would be if perhaps we could supply the box and just have Bethany Village figure out a way that they can take care of emptying it? Would that be a possibility?
We didn't supply the box. The box was supplied through the county, through Eric Radovich of the county. I don't know what those boxes cost. That's an Eric Radovich question, probably.
Okay. I'm just thinking if we're in the business here of doing what's in the best interest of our residents, that removing these drugs in a safe manner is definitely in the best interest of our residents. Understanding we do have the box of the township building, so I know the argument is, well, they already have a chance to do that. My concern is, I'm sure many of the residents at Bethany are immobile and require public transportation, and, you know, perhaps going out with so many controlled substances. And if someone picks up that they drop the people off on the bus at the drop box on Tuesdays at 11:30, you can bet that they're going to be there on Tuesdays at 11:30 to solve that. So I guess I'm struggling to find a good solution here. I'd like to be able to help. And Director, I guess what I'm asking is, do you see a way the township can help here without having to subject us to the rigors of what we have to go through with the other box?
Well, I think that what I mentioned earlier, Commissioners, is also a sound solution, and it's an ecologically sound solution, and that's dissolving the drugs in the bottle that they were dispensed in.
Mhm.
And there's a company out there that will do that. And when I looked at it, it was relatively, I don't remember who that is off the top of my head, but it was relatively low cost. And it's the same material that I used to destroy for my dental appointment, the opioid that I was given that I never took. And once it dissolves, you just throw it in the trash. So it goes out with a regular trash, which means you don't have to transport it to a box. You don't have a transportation across town. It's a normal refuse problem at that point. And it is a proved way to dispose of those type of drugs. I think there's other alternatives other than zeroing in on the box solution.
Okay.
Just-
Now,
Mr.
I'm curious, and this might be something the commissioners could think of as a service to offer to our residents. Perhaps, if what we want to do is get controlled substances disposed of, would that be something that we could look at in the public safety budget next year, saying Director, could you maybe look into the cost of that and see what that cost would be if we wanted to provide that service to all of our residents, and just say, we're sorry we can't, the box presents these 5 challenges that you've just laid out here tonight, but here's an alternative, and as a service to our taxpayers and in the interest of public safety, we might be interested in doing that. Is that something you could look into the cost of, Director?
Absolutely, and I think that providing those packets as a service by public safety through the commissioners is a reasonable solution. So I certainly will look into it, and I can get back to the commissioners with a report on cost and what that would be.
Yeah, I was just going to say, in deference to Commissioner Kutz's goal, and I applaud it. I think, Dave, if you can provide Mr. Kushner with the information that you have, something, and maybe an email to him or something, that at least he could go look to doing it even without our intervention at this time. I think that would be equally serving those constituents at Bethany Village.
Yeah, absolutely, Commissioner. I can do that. There's a website, and this company has a video that goes with the website too. So I would be happy to send that link to Mr. Kushner.
So what I'm hearing here is that Director Hall, you're going to do a little bit of follow-up. If you will, just look into the grant thing. Maybe there's a way to pay for this that's just sitting there. We don't know. And then it seems like there's some ideas of just communicating maybe some alternative ideas with Mr. Kushner as a representative at this. And then maybe we can get an update on this at a future meeting as to, maybe there's no solution. That's good, but at least we, can follow through and see if we can turn over every stone possible. At this point, I'm going to just allow Mr. Kushner, thank you for your patience. And if you will, and if any of the other residents feel compelled, they have to say something in particular that isn't redundant to what you've said or heard, feel free, but I'll let you have the last word, sir.
Well, I have responses, but they're numerous, and I think you've given it a fair discussion, and there will be maybe future opportunities to come back and take a look at where we stand, and I'll leave it at that. If any of the other members of the team wish to speak, I have the opportunity.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kushner.
Thank you. And
Thank you, Mr. Kushner.
I know this discussion may take different turns now and in the future, but I can assure you that this board is very appreciative of Bethany Village and the residents there. So thank you for, at least engaging here tonight, and hopefully we can come up with some rounded out solutions.
We would appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Moving on, is there anyone else here this evening to make comments pertinent to the township?
Mr. President, I know Mr. Lauer, Arno Lauer, came on to the meeting earlier and sent a message indicating he may want to speak about Harrisburg Manor, and I know the board already took action on that adjudication and ordinance, but I'm just, I guess I'm opening up there to Mr. Lauer in case he has a comment he wants to share.
Well, thank you. And I see Mr. Lauer's name. And so, yes, Arno, if you have some comment to make, we have already discussed and I believe took action on the Harrisburg Manor agenda item for this evening, but you're welcome to make comment.
Like I said, I was just tuning in to see how everything was going to go, and I was going to talk depending on which way the vote was going to go. I appreciate everybody that had anything to do with this and looking at it from a realistic standpoint. And I appreciate the time you're giving me to talk, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Lauer, thank you for joining us this evening. You're welcome to stick around. At this point, we're going to move on to our township engineer. You have a few items for us this evening.
Thank you, Mr. President. And before I get to the list of items, I have one item to bring to your attention, a very important item. I'd like to introduce to you Brad McCullough, who is your next township engineer and public works director, and has been here for a week already and is on the call, and there he is. So.
Welcome again, Brad.
Yeah, we're looking forward to in-person meetings when we can actually come in and meet the commissioners and everyone, but
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, Brad, welcome. Good to have you with us. And again, I'll definitely look forward to meeting you in person, but appreciate you taking the time to be on our meetings. And we're definitely looking forward to having you on board with the township. So thank you.
Yep, thank you.
And welcome.
Thanks.
And I'll just quickly point out, when I popped into the engineer's office this week, or last week, excuse me, I noticed Dan has already conceded his main desk. Dan's sitting off to the side.
so I told him he keeps moving closer to the door.
He's sitting on a makeshift, I think, CAD type desk or something. I don't know. And Brad's sitting there, the king of the office. So Brad, you're moved in. This is good.
Yeah.
Dan's just moving closer to the door. That's it.
That too, yeah.
All right. What do you have for us there?
Okay, and the first item A, I'm going to defer it here to Rebecca Davis, the Stormwater Program Manager, to tell you about that item.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for your time. I'm asking for you to consider authorizing staff to advertise and solicit bids for the Moreland Bioretention Retrofit Project. I have a memo attached in your packet, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Okay, so this is our first item on the agenda.
Yes.
Okay, so this would be for authorizing staff to advertise and solicit for the bids for the Moreland Stormwater Basin Retrofit Project, which is coming in response to the requirements to meet our permit, correct? And
It's part of our pollution reduction plan. Yes.
got it.
Mhm.
Ms. Davis, what are the odds? I mean, are there people, other municipalities actively soliciting these types of funds? And how do you see this as far as our chances?
Other municipalities have pollution reduction plans, so we're not the only one. Especially in this area, several of the municipalities have an MS4 permit or have applied for a waiver and have gotten denied. So our chances are good because construction companies are looking for this type of work, and we didn't have any issue when we advertised last year for the two projects. We had two bidders that bid on both of those projects. So I don't see us having any issue getting a bid for this project.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So commissioners,
Mr. President, I'm prepared to make a motion pending other questions from the other commissioners.
go ahead, Commissioner Kutz.
Mr. President, I move to authorize staff to advertise and solicit bids for the Moreland Stormwater Basin Retrofit Project.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the question. Any further comments or questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you.
Okay, item B is hopefully the last action you'll have to take relative to the addition to the Public Works facility that was completed last year for the mechanical contractor, Shannon A. Smith. There were a couple of loose ends to tie up with some project documentation, and that we were holding the last invoice until that was completed, and it has been completed. So we're prepared to make the final payment.
Mr. President, I'll move to approve a payment of invoice number 6, the final invoice, in the amount of $14,897.77 to Shannon A. Smith, Inc. for mechanical construction of the Public Works Facility Addition Project.
Second,
I have a motion from Commissioner Kutz, a second from Commissioner Black. On the question, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Okay, on to a couple of subdivision land development plans. The first item, docket 2021-01. This is at 2450 Gettysburg Road. And hopefully you can all see on the screen the aerial photo. For orientation purposes, here's Route 15, 581 along the top of the screen, Gettysburg Road running across the screen. This is Hartsdale Drive and the intersection there. So this is some existing warehouse buildings here, an industrial building. This is the building that I think currently has a mattress business, has had a daycare in it, amongst other things. And this is the subject property. You can see there is a fair amount of that property still undeveloped, probably more than half of it in the rear there. And the proposal here is to construct a warehouse building there, 45,000 square feet. It would remain one parcel. There's no subdivision involved, and it would be 2 buildings on one parcel then. The plan did go to the Planning Commission at their last meeting. They recommended approval, also recommended approval of the 2 waivers requested for the preliminary plan and the waiver of the sidewalks at this time along the frontage. Terry Diallo, the engineer for the project, I believe is on the call. If there are any questions specific to the project she can answer, or any questions that I can answer.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for the director, or is it an engineer with us this evening? Another engineer.
Yes. Hello.
Oh, hi, Terry. Got it.
Yes. Thank you.
Almost
Any
forgot to show you the plan.
There.
So
Mr. President, I will add, as the liaison to the Planning Commission, I was present at last week's meeting and concur in the Planning Commission's recommendation. I will be prepared to make a motion at the conclusion of any commissioner comments or questions they might have.
Okay.
So just for orientation, this is now turned 90 degrees from the aerial. So this is Gettysburg Road along the right side here. This is the entrance drive, and then this is the railroad running up and down along the back here. And this is the proposed building, dock spaces, and then parking for employees on the side.
Okay.
And is 30th, 29th or 30th Street near there in the grand vicinity?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
You can see here, 28th Street is the first one that comes down here.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, and Morningside actually dead ends right at the property line there.
Right. Okay.
They will access some utilities from Morningside, and also there will be a stone drive that is chained off, but is available for emergency as a secondary access there.
Thank you.
Dan, has there been a time here in Lower Allen whereas the township has deemed it necessary to install sidewalk and has asked a landowner to install the sidewalk at their own expense? That's always on these waivers, and I don't believe I've heard of an instance where we've asked somebody to go back and install it. I'm just curious if that has ever happened.
I can't recall an instance in the last 22 years.
Okay. Thank you. All right, so commissioners, if there's no further questions or comments, and if there are, please speak up. We'll take these waivers one at a time if we can. So Commissioner Kutz, if you're going to plan on making any of these motions or making them or making the first one, if you just take one at a time, please.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Mr. President, I move to approve the waiver of the requirement to submit a preliminary plan.
Second,
Okay, I have a motion and a second on the first waiver of the requirement to submit a preliminary plan. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion
My
carries.
own, it's not opposition, but I don't know that in the motion we referenced the SLD docket number, so we know what we were waiving. I don't know if that's important or not.
Steve, do you need that?
At least one time, I think you mentioned it and indicate that the waivers all relate to that.
Okay.
subdivision land
All right, I
development.
missed it. My apologies.
Okay, are you comfortable, Commissioner Shin?
I am, thank you.
Okay, I'll call for the question again. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Mr. President, I move to approve a waiver of the requirement to provide sidewalks along all street frontage until such time as the installation of the same has been deemed necessary by the township for the health, safety, or welfare of the general public. These improvements shall be made at the owner's expense, and this is a covenant running with the land which shall bind the owners, their successors, heirs, and assigns.
Second,
I have a motion from Commissioner Cook, a second from Commissioner Black on the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. And I'll just make the comment, since it's written in here that these waivers and modifications are not contrary to the public interest, and they maintain the purpose and intent of subdivision and land development ordinance. And then if anyone's so inclined to make a motion on the final, that would be number 3, or triple I.
Mr. President, I'll be happy to move to approve SLD 2021-01, final land development plan for 2450 Gettysburg Road Warehouse, contingent upon the following: providing the executed developer's agreement and improvement security, providing a copy of the driveway joint use agreement, Lower Allen Township approval, and Cumberland County Conservation District approval.
Excuse me, Mr. President, can I just make a comment there? I'm sorry, that number 3 should be Lower Allen Township Authority approval.
Mr. President, I'll amend my motion to include that contingent upon Lower Allen Township Authority approval, and I'll withdraw the contingent upon Lower Allen Township approval.
Thank you.
Second,
Got a motion from Commissioner Shin.
second, Commissioner Shin.
Second.
I'm sorry, a motion from Commissioner Kutz and a second from Commissioner Shin as all of this amended per Director Flint's comments. Any further questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. All right,
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good night.
thank you.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Okay, item D is just down the street a little bit, on Simpson Ferry Road for orientation purposes. Again, we have Route 15, Gettysburg Road here, and then Simpson Ferry Road. And the subject property is the Gish's Furniture Store right here. You see this is the lumber business here, the rail business here that kind of wraps around, and this is the retail store here. The proposal is to put an addition on the building. It's currently just under 12,000 square feet, and they're adding about 6,800 in the rear. You can see on the photo there that there is space in the rear, although some of that is not usable because the stream channel is along the back here. But you can see there's a fair amount of paved and stone area existing, and that is where the addition is planned to go on the back of the building. So that's the, and again, this is also turned 90 degrees so that Simpson Ferry Road is along the right side here. That's the existing condition, and this is where they will be adding the addition to the rear with one loading space here for smaller trucks. It's not intended for large trucks. The Planning Commission did review and recommend approval on the plan, and also recommended approval on 2 waivers, one for the sidewalks along the frontage and another for street trees along the frontage. see if I can pull up the photo here. That they used in discussing the street trees.
Hmm.
That the existing building has quite a bit of landscaping in the front. And they were proposing to maintain that rather than put any additional trees along there.
Can I just tell you, Dan, it's amazing, the technology. Years ago, we would have been looking at a plan, all standing around a table, looking at some plan. That's fantastic.
I used to put a black and white photo on the overhead.
Yeah, I remember.
That was high tech.
That's right.
Nice.
The engineer, Tom Egler, from the site design engineering firm, is also on the call. If there are any specific questions for him, or if there's any questions that I can answer.
Well, I'll say that it's good to know that a furniture business is going to be expanding in the township. And I wish you the best of luck with your client.
Yeah, I think it's exciting that in these times when there's so many people crying they can't make it, and we're expanding. Congratulations.
So,
Thank you. I'll let them know.
Commissioners, do you have any other questions? And so we would be looking to take action potentially, if anyone's so inclined, on SLD docket number 2021-02, 3424 Simpson Ferry Road addition. And there are separate waivers again, which you probably have in front of you. So I'd like to take these waivers one at a time if you're so inclined to make any motions this evening.
Mr. President, I'd be happy to make a motion again regarding the above docket. You mentioned motion to approve waiver of the requirement to provide sidewalks along street frontage until such time as the installation of same has been deemed necessary by the township for the health, safety, or welfare of the general public. These improvements shall be made at the owner's expense. This is a covenant running with the land which shall bind their owners, successors, heirs, and signs.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Kutz, a second from Commissioner Shin. I think you got in there a little before you had. A call for the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Mr. President, I move to approve waiver of the requirement to provide street trees along street frontage.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Kutz, a second from Commissioner Shin. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Again, these waivers and modifications are not contrary to the public interest. They maintain the purpose and intent of the subdivision and land development ordinance.
Mr. President, I move to approve SLD 2021-01 final land development plan for, I tell you what, I believe this is a repeat.
No.
Would it be correct 2021-02 final land development plan for 3424 Simpson Ferry Road addition contingent upon providing an executed stormwater facilities maintenance agreement?
Second.
Well, wait a second. So 2021-02, is that correct, Mr. Solicitor?
Right, that's, I think it
Yes.
was correct on the D. in the
Yeah,
D
it's
paragraph on the
correct on the first page, not the second. So I read 02 with the with the right address.
Great. And I got who seconded that for me?
I did. Yeah.
Okay, I got a motion from Commissioner Kutz to approve the final land development plan, and a second from Commissioner Black. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. All right,
That's all I have. Thank you.
thank
Thank you,
you.
everybody. It's always a pleasure working in Lower Allen. Have a good
Thank
day.
you, sir. Community and economic development. Who will be leading us through this evening?
Mr. President, I'll be getting to speak with 10A, and then Aaron Trone will take B through D. Okay, so for the benefit of any public that joined us, the public hearing was conducted at 5 p.m. and concluded. Now is the time where it's potential that you wish to discuss and possibly act upon the ordinance 2021-01. That would add a permitted use in the R3 district to allow outpatient mental health and substance abuse services. I will note that typically you were going to have some long deliberation or continue or start deliberation at a subsequent meeting. Staff would recommend an adjudication. It seemed apparent during the conclusion of the public hearing that there might be some sentiment to act on this tonight. So an adjudication would not be possible. There could be a roll call vote on the ordinance. I would remind you that when we adopt a land use ordinance that affects people's property rights, staff typically asks you for permission to publish a notice of adopted ordinance. And what that does is it limits the length of time that any aggrieved party could file an appeal of the amendment to the zoning code. That's under the municipality's planning code. I don't know if the solicitor wants to chime in on that, but that's really all I had to add. I'd be willing to answer any questions you might have arising from the public hearing.
Mr. President, I would just like to ask for a reiteration or a clarification. Mr. Eby, you talked about this change affecting the R3 multifamily residential district. I had the privilege of having you provide me with all the various usages that could be in R3. You said that probably it would be unlikely that people would be in Lower Allen would be building a hospital or this type of a facility in a neighborhood. Did I misunderstand? Am I misquoting you?
No, what I indicated is that we have various places throughout the township zoned R3. Most of them are already developed with townhomes and apartment buildings and similar uses. We don't have a lot of vacant R3 land where it's likely that a hospital, rehab facility, or other similar use would be built.
Okay, so there is a bit of a unofficial buffer there for us, if I might use that term.
Correct. Even though the change would apply everywhere in R3, if you make it, in all likelihood, we only have 2 existing rehab hospitals. One is active to the north of the subject property, and the one is the old original rehab hospital.
Right. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Okay. Any other questions for commissioners on this? This is up for discussion or action this evening. This obviously prior to the meeting, as Mr. Eby, I think, pointed out, we had our hearing on this matter.
I would be glad to make a motion, Mr. President, to approve ordinance 2021-01, an ordinance of the Board of Commissioners of Lower Allen Township, Cumberland County, Pennsylvania, amending the code of the Township of Lower Allen, Chapter 220, entitled Zoning, by adding outpatient mental health and substance abuse centers to the list of uses permitted in the R3 multifamily residential district.
Okay, I have a motion to approve ordinance 2021-1. Secretary Thomas, will you please take a roll call?
I will do that. Commissioner Shin.
Aye.
Vice President Black.
Aye.
Commissioner Kutz.
Aye.
And President Vallone.
Aye. Motion to approve ordinance 2021-01 passes 4-0.
President Vallone, at this time, then staff would respectfully request consideration of a motion to authorize staff to publish notice of adopted ordinance with respect to ordinance 2021-01.
So moved.
So, second.
I got a motion from Commissioner Black.
No, but somebody else.
That
Oh,
was
Commissioner
Kutz.
Kutz, and a second from Commissioner Shin.
Correct.
Will you repeat that, Mr. Eby?
Yes, it would be a motion authorizing staff to publish notice of adopted ordinance regarding ordinance 2021-01.
That's what I heard the first time. Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Okay. Who will be leading us through the Michael Baker International contract?
I will do that. I have on the agenda tonight for discussion and possible action to award a contract to Michael Baker International in amount not to exceed $50,000 for the Gettysburg Road Corridor Study. This study was recommended in both our comprehensive plan and our pedestrian and bike study. We received $50,000 in grant funding from Tri-County to do this study. We reviewed 5 different proposals for this, and we interviewed 2 companies, and we selected Michael Baker International. We've worked with Michael Baker before. They actually did our comprehensive plan for us. The purpose of this study is to review zoning along Gettysburg Road and also look at access and mobility. There's been a lot of changes to Gettysburg Road, that corridor, and just to make sure everyone knows, because the name is a little confusing, but it's actually that piece of land or that road that's going to go from Lemoyne all the way to Shiremanstown. So the main portion of it is Gettysburg Road, but not the Gettysburg Road by like Pizza Grill. It's Simpson Ferry, Gettysburg Road, State, Hummel. It just was too long of a name.
Got it. I have a pretty simple question. It just out of curiosity, if you'll refresh my memory, the grant came in, and that's great because anytime we can use grant money to pay for projects, that's a wonderful thing. Did we budget for this anticipating the grant, or did we budget for it where the grant coming in is kind of a windfall?
We budgeted knowing that we had received the grant and we were going to do this project.
Okay, thank you. I was just curious. Any other questions, commissioners?
Yeah, Aaron, you're saying that the scope includes starting at Lemoyne as Gettysburg Road and running through past Dishes Furniture as Simpson Ferry Road, is that correct?
Yes.
And terminating at Sharmanstown?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion, Mr. President, that we award a contract to Michael Baker International in an amount not to exceed $50,000 for the Gettysburg Road Corridor Study as described by our assistant manager.
Second.
I have a motion on the question from Commissioner Shin, a second from Commissioner Black. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
For this next item, I'm here on behalf of the Development Authority. The Development Authority is requesting a waiver of fees in the amount of $18,235.49. This would be associated with the development and the construction of a building located on Unit 3 at Lower Allen Commons. The Development Authority is undertaking this project, and typically we would have, typically a developer would be paying this to the township, but because it is the Development Authority, which is a component unit of the township, we are asking a waiver of the fees, since in essence it's going to be one portion of the government paying the other portion of the government.
Mr. President, I have a question.
Mr. Kutz?
Aaron, do you happen to know at the conclusion of the project, will the township be receiving any portion of proceeds gained from this project that the Development Authority may receive. And what I mean is the Development Authority profits at all. Will the township be receiving any of those funds? Do you happen to know?
That's not the plan. So the Development Authority is not given any funding from the township. Whereas the Sewer Authority would receive fees and the Stormwater Authority would receive fees. They would collect fees. The Development Authority does not have any such funding stream. So the Development Authority is, if they were to have any kind of money that would be left over from the development of this, the thought would be to use that to do other redevelopment projects in the township.
Okay.
And of course, the township will receive taxes from this property.
I think to put some type of a financial strain on the authority at this point, to me is counterproductive. Should be a soft handoff, really.
So the Development Authority, I'm positive, I'm pretty sure I understand the Development Authority is acting as the builder here essentially, or not the builder, but I guess I hate to use the term developer. I'm not exactly sure, and so it's a government entity of Lower Allen. I understand that your explanation in the memo was clear. A few weeks ago, I signed what was I guess the conclusion of a project that the Development Authority took on before I was on the Board of Commissioners, and which the conclusion of it gave the township some money for that project back. I guess it was sharing the profit or whatever of the sale of a piece of property. And so I think what I'm talking about. I think it was the old township building. Has there ever been talk of any other moving forward with any other types of deals with the township where the township would be a beneficiary of some of the the work that the Development Authority is moving forward with?
Well, I think the township is a beneficiary of the Development Authority in the sense that they have requested and they've recognized that there's a need for redevelopment in the township, and they've put this entity in charge of it. And rather than having to give direct tax funding to it, the Development Authority is trying to kind of survive on its own. So it's doing projects.
Yeah. And I meant my question, Aaron, simply on the financial side. I didn't mean beneficiary in theory. I mean, I absolutely believe that the township benefits from the work of the Development Authority. Absolutely. I'm just was talking particularly on just the financial side, because I mean, in that particular project I'm referencing, there didn't have to be any money coming back to the township in that, but the development, somehow they came to an agreement, right, at that time.
So the Development Authority they deeded that property to the township deeded that property to the Development Authority, and the agreement was in essence, go forth, sell this, and then you will have some seed money to do some projects in the township for redevelopment. And since they weren't going to just give the property, so there was in the mortgage or in the deed, it was 25% of it would come back to the township.
I think it's important to double back and realize that if we had handled it the way, when Bonton closed all Bontons. And if you've been to Harrisburg lately, or in a Colonial Park area, there is a dead Bonton sitting there, doing nothing but ugly up the place. So I think we could have avoided all this by just letting somebody go in there and put some kind of a substandard whatever, which we tried to avoid. So I'm a little bit of a cheerleader here now, I think, for Development Authority in this project and the waiver.
Yeah, and Commissioner Shen, I understand your comment. It's really not what I was at all. I totally believe in that project and what we're doing there, and I'm not opposed to this. I'm coming into this really want to approve it. I just wanted to understand. I signed off on that conclusion of that other agreement before. I was just curious to know they did come to an agreement in the past, and I was just wondering if that would maybe work into the future with things. Not that I'm saying it's necessary. I don't really even understand much of the finances that go on between the Development Authority and their projects and the township relatively new at it. So thank you for clarifying all those things, Aaron, and everybody. So
Aaron, you mentioned something about 25% coming back to the township. What, did I miss something?
The old township building, the former township building at 1993 Hummel Avenue, the Development Authority sold that about 3 years ago, but in order to sell it, they also acted as, they also provided the mortgage on it. So the entity that just purchased it has now paid off their mortgage. So now that that mortgage has come due, the township received 25% of that.
Yeah, if I may clarify a little bit, that those property, we had 2 properties that actually belonged to the township, and we deeded them over to the authority with the understanding is when they sold those properties, we would get 25% back, and they would be able to keep 75% as seed money for future projects.
yeah, and I get it now. Thank you for the explanation. It was our property, or ours. It was a township's property. They deeded it with an understanding, which is clearly different than the circumstances here. I understand. So,
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to place a few remarks on the record, please.
Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. I understand which way this vote's going to go tonight. However, I am compelled to share my reservations for this. This is $18,000 worth of revenue that the township expected to see but will not see. And here's why. Township and the Development Authority had planned to hand off this project prior to building the shell of a building. The Township Development Authority decided to go forward and act as a private builder would by building its own building. The Township Development Authority has stepped beyond its purpose to foster development and sell the property and is now acting as a private builder would. If this had been sold to a private builder, as it was supposed to have been before the end of the year, we would be receiving this $18,000 in revenue from the builder who would be applying for these permits. Additionally, Mr. President, township staff has devoted a tremendous number of hours to this project. If the Development Authority does not plan to give us any money for those staff hours, we're talking thousands of dollars that the Development Authority is using our staff free of charge. They should be paying for that out of the profit of this building. If, as Aaron said, they don't intend to pay us any money for us, and our staff's been working considerable hours on a project the Development Authority is doing at no expense to them, our taxpayers deserve something. These fees are one way our taxpayers can get something back. In addition, we have guaranteed loans. We have provided loans in the amount of $800,000. We are taking on risk in doing so. In the event that this sells at a loss, the township taxpayers are on the hook. Mr. President, I was elected, as were all of us, to safeguard taxpayer monies. We are taking on risk without any benefit to the taxpayers. This is $18,000 that we can ensure goes in our pockets rather than in a fund with no oversight or information. Commissioners, 4 of us who aren't on the Development Authority, have been railroaded when asking for information. This lack of oversight and information leads me to be skeptical of providing the Development Authority with a chance to recoup any more funds than possible. It's our job as commissioners to appropriate these funds. It is my belief that these funds should be recouped by the taxpayers to go back into our general fund for us, the 5 elected members of the public, to serve on the Board of Commissioners to appropriate as we see fit. Mr. President, it's my belief that all of these factors combined and the Development Authority's willingness to interfere in the free market, if they would like to interfere in the free market, they should pay fees as every other free market builder does. So, Mr. President, I while recognizing several of my colleagues have placed their support on the record tonight, would urge a no vote on these waivers for the reasons I have outlined above. Mr. President, we have several issues with the way the Development Authority is running. Those issues we will have to reserve for another discussion. However, I do not believe it's appropriate to waive $18,000 of sure revenue in a year where a pandemic has derailed any chance the township has at recouping its entire revenue. It is a luxury we simply cannot afford to just have $18,000 not come to our coffers and to leave them with a board who has no oversight over their funds from the only 5 members of the public who are elected to have oversight over the taxpayer funds. Thank you, Mr. President, and I yield back.
Mr. President, I would just like to,
Do not understand what has happened here. If private developers had stayed involved, that's the way it would have gone. They would have paid the fee. All the private developers tried to cut the prices, and we had a contract to deliver a building. We were forced to take over this position. And so that's why we are acting as a developer. We will not pound the nails. We will not build the building. But if we're going to deliver a product that's a key focal point of this development, we must move.
Mr. President, I would just like to go on the record as not being a part of the, being felt that I've been railroaded somehow. I have asked questions, I've gotten answers, and I guess I could ask the question of Vice President Black and Aaron. Does the authority have the 18,000 if we were to vote this thing down? I mean, could you pay it?
I mean, it's all speculative because we're still in the process of developing the project.
Yeah, but you gave us the 18,000 number, Aaron.
Yes.
And an explanation of it. All right. If the township would, I'm going to use the word in quotes, demand, all right, that the permit fees be paid. Is it there?
I mean, it would have to be because we have to move forward with the project. On the flip side, because it is a component unit and it's part of the township, and the township is backing the loan, if the development authority does not make money on the deal, then the township could potentially have to pay it. So I guess I'm thinking one way, it's also in the best interest of the township to see that this project succeeds.
Yeah, I still think that it's counterproductive for this pseudo arm of the township to be somehow dunning the other arm. And I have to say, I have felt at times in the dark, and I've been very out front about that. And you've all adjusted, at least to my satisfaction. So thank you. And I am absolutely I would like to place a motion, Mr. President.
Mr. President, if I can make one more comment before the motion. I don't want to delay things. I just want to address my colleagues' comments here. Mr. President, I would ask if commissioners could refrain from personal assaults by accusing other commissioners of not knowing what they're talking about. Mr. President, I assure you I have done my research. I have met with staff. I have a belief that is reasonable. I believe I have laid my objections out there, and I do not believe I should be subjected to personal attacks and finger waving in my face for a differing of opinion. We can disagree without being disagreeable, and I would appreciate if commissioners could move forward respectfully with one another and not insulting one another. Thank you, Mr. President.
Commissioner Kutz, if you felt I was waving my finger at you, I apologize. I didn't mention you at all, I don't think. I just said I don't want to be part of a comment about, you're going to use a harsh word like railroading, okay, I want to be
Commissioner
careful
Chin,
that I'm not part of the we, that's all.
Fellas, let's,
That was not directed at you, Commissioner Chin.
All right, okay.
fellas, at this point, I really, and I do understand the need for this discussion. I do want to continue conducting the pertinent business that we have in front of us right now, and I'm sure that these discussions will carry at some point. And I do respect everybody's will here to want to talk about this, but I do want to move on if we can. I think that we've kind of talked about our feelings on this enough at this point. So I'll make one final comment, and that is I appreciate the steps that have been being taken to, to keep everybody informed. Definitely got a comprehensive memo on this week. And at this point, I can tell you, I'm going to be a yes vote on this because I understand the circumstances that we're in, and we can maybe have another discussion in the future if so be it that, we want to talk about some of these issues that were brought up tonight.
Well, let me make the motion with your approval, Mr. President, that we approve the request to waive fees in the amount of $18,235.49 for Lower Allen Township Development Authority, a component unit of the township associated with the construction of Unit 3 at Lower Allen Commons.
Steve, I second that motion.
I have a motion.
I thought it was going to die for a second there.
No, I'll second it.
I have a motion from Commissioner Shin and a second from Commissioner Black.
Mr. President, I have a question on the motion. Are members of the Development Authority able to vote on a proposal that will directly and financially benefit the Development Authority?
Yes, the
Solicitor.
conflicts only relate to personal or family pecuniary interest, not separate boards.
So that was a yes, Steve?
I'm saying Mr. Black may vote on this
Okay.
motion.
I'm losing you a little bit. Okay.
Are there any further comments on this question or discussion?
Call for the question, Mr. President.
I will. I'm just not going to rush it.
Mr. President, I guess I just have one final comment here. To me, I just feel like the lines are being blurred. We have, a staff member whose job it is basically to run this project, and another staff member on the Development Authority. So to me, the lines are being blurred with staff and their involvement here, that they are advocating for less money to come into the township that they would have to use in their budget. So I guess, Mr. President, I just want to put on the record a concern I have that perhaps we should separate things moving forward. Development Authority should, look, here's my concern is that we have staff directly advocating against receiving funds for their own budget. And so I just want to point out that we have a couple what seem to me to be apparent conflicts of interest that are troubling to me, and I just wanted to put that on the record, and that's my last comment on this, and I'll proceed.
Okay. So I have a motion from Commissioner Shin, a second from Commissioner Black, and I believe we've had ample discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
The motion carries 3-1. Next, discussion and possible action regarding resolution 2021 R05.
This one is me again on behalf of the Development Authority. Part of the construction of this unit is going to require a sewer extension. Afterwards, the sewer extension will be deeded or will be given to the sewer authority, the Lower Allen Township Authority. And because of that, they require certain design standards. They require a security to make sure that it's going to get done, it's going to get completed the way that it should. They would also require this of another developer. Typically, they would ask for a bond, or they would be asking for a letter of credit from a developer to see the construction completed. Rather than do a letter of credit, since this is another governmental entity, we're proposing to have a municipal government guarantee to construct the sewer extension. That is government saying, we're going to give our word that that this is going to be done, it's going to be constructed. It's our full faith and credit. We talked to staff at the Lower Allen Township Authority, and this will meet their needs. They did not want to waive a security. They felt strongly about that, but they felt that this still completes their needs. So we're asking the township to give a guarantee that the sewer extension would be constructed on behalf of the development authority.
Okay, so
I have a question on this. Is there an amount that we're guaranteeing here?
We're not guaranteeing an amount, we're guaranteeing a completed action.
So what happens if it doesn't get done?
Then the township would do it. I mean, we're saying that it's going to get done.
So we're saying if the development authority doesn't do it, the township itself will do it at our expense.
Well, the township does pay for this, doesn't it, Aaron?
I mean, the development, this will come out of the construction of it will come out of the development authority's project budget for this.
Right.
This is just typically there's an escrow account that's created and they keep the funding to make sure that the project is constructed properly and it's held there for 18 months after it's been inspected and it's been accepted. So rather than putting money in the account and leaving it there, we're saying we'll give a guarantee.
Yeah, the sewer authorities just want to make sure that they're not going to construct this and turn around and nobody's standing there behind them. That's what this is about.
Mm-hmm.
I had a conversation with John Brosman, the engineer and manager of the authority today, and that was basically his instruction to me.
So I guess where I'm hung up here is, at what point? Sure, it's all going to work out and get done. At what point, though, if it doesn't get done, is the township on the hook for anything?
Well, we can't build it without the extension, without the sewer extension. So it's
If I may,
part of the job.
If I may, Commissioner, there is a loan that we're drawing down on. The money is in the bank in order to complete projects like this. There's virtually no chance this is not going to get done with that money. This is housekeeping. This is us. This is the sewer authority following their procedures with a request for security. We actually worked out a way to provide them security without costing any money.
Okay, I'm satisfied. Thank you for the explanation, Mr. Manager.
all right, so commissioners, we would be looking possibly to take action on this if anyone's so inclined to make a motion.
I will make the motion, Mr. President, to approve resolution 2021-R-05, municipal government guarantee to construct the sewer extension as explained in the memo from Assistant Manager Trone dated January 22, 2021.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on resolution 2021-R-05. Any further discussion or question? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. All right, Director Hall, you're up, and commissioners ask a lot of questions.
Thank you. This is item 11A on your agenda. It is the body worn camera project. You will recall that this has been going on for a number of years now, where we have talked about this. Initially, we didn't have the money. budgeted. We applied through the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency. Back on October the 15th, 2019, we were awarded $52,000 in grant funds. The total project cost was then budgeted as part of the 2021 capital budget, and that's $97,000. So the $52,000 grant will offset the cost of the body worn camera project. Your approval tonight of the WatchGuard quote for $74,125.75 would authorize us to begin ordering cameras and supporting equipment that's required to implement this project. And you saw, I'm not sure if you had a chance to look at it, but the V300 PowerPoint was included in your packet, kind of this depicting what this is. It's a liability protection for the township, and it's also a protection for the officers because there's always the possibility that their actions could be scrutinized in our current climate, and objections or statements about they did this, that, or the other thing is covered in terms of these. We do this with car cameras, and this is an extension of the car cameras as well, but it's the body worn camera project, and it's really something we've been discussing for a while, and we have the ability to move forward with your discussion and approval.
So Dave, we have a $52,000 grant, and we make up the rest of the 74,000.
Right. The grant allows for some cash outlay by us, which is what the capital budget was for. And then in addition to that, we have what in the grant world they call in kind. We're allowed to put like part of the captain's salary and my salary and Diana's salary and the people that worked on the project. So it's already budgeted money that's in-kind contributions to the project.
So what do we have in dollars for this in the budget?
Capital budget is $97,000.
Right. And if I'm reading that correctly, we're pretty significant savings, right? Over $20,000.
It is our hope that there will be some savings, but I can't guarantee that.
Dave, are you in favor of this? To buy the cameras?
I think we need to do it. I think it's an outstanding thing. I think it protects the officers and actually protects the township too.
I've heard it said that there's some restrictions with this. In other words, if you were to go in and apprehend someone or go in and confront someone in their personal residence, are you allowed to keep the camera on?
Yeah, there was some restrictions under the Wiretap Act in Pennsylvania several years ago. It was one of the reasons we didn't move any faster on this. They have fixed those restrictions now.
Good.
So we can legally utilize the body worn cameras.
Okay, good.
Captain Crone, is there a CALEA component to this at all? I don't recall when I did attend the hearings a few years ago. I don't actually remember if they discussed body cams.
There are CALEA components to everything. But yes, there's very specific standards that we've constructed our policy and process to adhere to, both for the in-car cameras and for the body-worn cameras. And that policy is also, we had to present that ahead of getting the grant. It's also been DOJ certified.
Okay, thanks. Great answer.
Okay, so I think you've already answered my question, Liam. You're in favor of the body cameras?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And as liaison from the commissioners to public safety, I'm in favor of the body cameras.
Make a motion.
I would definitely entertain a motion to get this stuff in process.
I would like to make the motion to get the process underway to acquire body worn cameras and purchase same.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Black, a second from Commissioner Shin on the question. Any further discussion?
I just wondered, are we going to get it underway or go out and buy them? Was that the same thing?
It's both. We have to have the approval of the funding in order to place. We have a quote, and as soon as the board would approve that, then Captain Crone will move forward on making the required purchases.
Okay, thank you.
And Rick, my motion ended with purchase of same.
I missed it. I'm sorry. I did. It's a Zoom. I seconded it anyway.
Yep, I have a motion from Commissioner Black, a second from Commissioner Shen on the question. Any further discussion, comments?
Yeah, Mr. President, I just want to offer my support for the Public Safety Department here in this endeavor. Appreciate what you folks are trying to do. I know we had good discussion about this earlier in the year. It's something I'm in favor of, and appreciate the support you guys have for your officers. So thank you, and I'm ready to vote, Mr. President.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carry. Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. I'll just say with a comment of I'm very appreciative as well, particularly that, you know, when we get down to asking, are we in favor of this? The director, of course, management's yes, likely, you know, the director's yes. And then you get to the captain who's on the ground with the guys and women in our force. And I am thrilled to know that this will be well received. So thank you, Captain, for your leadership, getting this work through. And director, thanks. All right, moving on.
Moving on, Mr. President, to 11B on your agenda. It is a request to approve the first line supervisor corporal promotion list. The board will recall at their May 11th meeting, you approved activation of the Civil Service Commission to establish promotional list for the second line supervisor, lieutenant and/or sergeant, and the first line supervisor, corporal. December 11th, the first line supervisor written test exam was conducted. There were 8 applicants sitting for the exam. Consisted of a standard associate's test through the PA Chiefs of Police Association. That's the written test. And then also there was a supplemental Lower Allen Police Department policy test. 7 of the 8 officers passed the written exams and were scheduled for oral interviews. Those oral interviews were conducted Thursday, January the 14th, and based upon the combined written and oral scores, 4 candidates rose to meet the requirements for corporal. So on Monday, the 18th, 2021, January 18th, the Civil Service Commission met and certified the results of the promotional process. So I'm respectfully requesting the Board of Commissioners approve the actions of the Civil Service Commission and create the promotional list for corporal, consisting of in the number 1 position, Mike Scarlato, Officer Scarlato. Then in the second position, Officer Troy McNair. In the third position, Officer Laura Temanowski. And in the fourth position, Officer Brian Rennie. The letter from Chairman Greiner of the Civil Service Commission was attached as a part of your packet. I request discussion, consideration, and possible action on approval of that list.
Well, I had an unofficial casual conversation with civil service member Terry Lenker today. He was looking for the manager, Tom. He's looking for you, and I just happened to be in, was returning some information. He spoke in support of the Civil Service Commission. He said everything. He sat in on some interviews. He said, and everything went swimmingly. So I would just want to add that to the conversation.
Thank you. Terry's a strong supporter. He actually attended the oral interviews, and he also attends the written. A lot of times the whole promotional process, at times, and when we're promoting or when we're hiring police officers, he comes out and spends an entire day during that process. So he's an excellent member of the commission. He's very supportive.
If you're ever in trouble and need to get out of there with a helicopter, he's your man.
Absolutely.
All right. So this was up for discussion or action this evening, if anyone's so inclined to get this moving.
I would be glad to move that we request, I'm sorry, the request is for the approval. I guess we're looking to move that we approve the promotion. No, I'm sorry. Approve Civil Service Commission certification of the list of corporals.
B, it's B.
B, I got it. That's my motion.
I have a motion to approve the Civil Service Commission certification of list of corporals.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Shin, a second from Commissioner Black. Any further discussion or comments? Call for the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Next.
Commissioners, then under 11C, under public safety, follow, thank you for that vote. We would follow with a recommendation to choose a corporal candidate off of that list. There is absolutely no reason why we can't pick number one on the list, and that would be Mike Scarlato. So I would recommend to the board and respectfully request that they approve him to be promoted to the rank of corporal. That promotional ceremony, if you're so inclined, would be held at the February 8th Board of Commissioners meeting.
I would like to make the motion for promotion of Officer Michael Scarlato to corporal effective February 8, 2021.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Black, a second from Commissioner Shin. Is there any further discussion or comments regarding the promotion of Michael Scarlato to corporal effective February 8th?
Highly supportive.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Commissioners, the final item under public safety is 11D, and that's the capital purchase of a replacement marked police car. It's in the 2021 capital budget that was approved by the commissioners. The current vehicle was purchased in 2017, has a mileage of 91,240. The recommendation from Fleet Manager Charlie Reynolds was to replace this vehicle. The request is to once again purchase another 3.31 hybrid, all-wheel drive police interceptor utility. As the commissioners will remember, we have two of those vehicles currently in the fleet, and they're doing very well. We're pleased with their performance, and as such, would like to continue the purchase of the hybrids. The quoted base price is $41,081 from Fred Bean Ford. The vehicle should have a service life of 5 to 7 years. In addition to the quoted, it says Huffman there, but it's actually Fred Bean, correction. It'll be separate purchase for lighting package, vehicle striping, accessory, and all those things, which are also part of the budget. Charlie estimates that to be at about $15,146. So the total combined cost for the fleet replacement would be $56,227.50. And there is in the capital budget a line for $58,560. So we would be under the budget for this purchase and all of the accessories that go with the car. It is CoStar contract from Fred Beans Ford. So there's no bid required in this purchase.
I would make the motion to work with Fred Beans Ford for the capital purchase of replacement marked police patrol vehicle as quoted.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Black and a second from Commissioner Shin on the capital purchase of the replacement marked police patrol vehicle as outlined in the director's memo. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Director Hall, thanks again for the really comprehensive memo on these real big purchases. It really helps us understand, the numbers. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
I'm trying to use my mute button more frequently tonight, and I said moving on to the manager, but you didn't hear me. So moving on.
I'm learning to read lips after months of using Zoom. Anyway, thank you, Mr. President. First item I have on the agenda tonight is sort of a housekeeping item. A couple of years ago, the board did approve the firefighter, or the emergency responder tax credits And what we have is a group of folks who qualify and have submitted their application. There is a memo from me to the board in the packet. And what I would need, I guess, tonight is for the board to approve the tax credits for these individuals.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Shin, a second from Commissioner Kutz, I believe.
May I answer any questions before we move on?
Yeah, is there any further questions or comments? This is our second year through this, correct?
Third year.
Through this, yep.
It's a good memo, Tom. It spoke. I get it. We should do it.
Yeah, Tom, great memo. I always appreciate getting a little extra with the agenda memo. So thank you.
Sure. So at this point, these people will get a letter indicating that they've been approved, and letters will go to our tax collector and the Earned Income Tax Bureau indicating the credits as well. So, thank
Tom, at the PSATC's meeting this year, one of the issues that came up under the legislative update from the PML was, I believe it was passed, or maybe not, and maybe you've caught this already. Didn't they recently expand the credit, particularly for the firefighters, or planning on it? Did you happen to go through that information?
I'm not aware of that. We haven't
Okay.
gotten that in any of our legislative updates.
Okay, then it might be something brewing. I didn't quite remember, and I don't have it here in front of me. But I believe in the future, we can probably expect, to some degree, seeing an expansion of that, maybe to include some other
I
taxes.
hope so. I have some thoughts on that, but
But perhaps even out of our authority with taxation. I think if I heard that correctly, maybe hitting some of the state and maybe federal, but I don't quote me on that. But anyway, I do have a motion and a second to approve this list. So if there's no further questions, I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Please let the record reflect that I am abstaining. I have a relative on that list.
Solicitor Minor, is that necessary?
Yes, that's a purpose. You know, if there is a pecuniary interest, if the commissioner or his family, that is a typical reason for an abstention.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Black. All those in favor, please say aye again.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed and one abstention, Commissioner Black. So 3 to 0 with one abstention. Next.
Next, I would want to submit to the board the resignation of Charles Angelo, nicknamed Chachi, that's how everybody knows him, from the Recreation and Parks Board. Mr. Angelo and his wife are purchasing a home in Hamden Township and will be unable to serve any longer. It's particularly disappointing to me. He was quite energetic and had some good ideas, and was what I thought was an injection of some direction, or new direction, I should say, on the board. So he will be missed. I did supply the board with 2 applications, 2 resumes that we had received from persons interested. We can discuss those in executive session. We can discuss them, in a while. You can have a chance to go over them, and if you want to interview the folks, we can proceed however you like with Mr. Angelo's replacement. I don't believe that there's any urgency to it, although we would like to get somebody on before spring if things start opening back up again.
Mr. Manager, can I ask a question?
Sure.
How many members is the Parks and Rec Board at full capacity?
I think there's 7 right now.
Okay. All right. Is there, I know you have a couple of applications here. Do you see benefit to opening this up on our Facebook page and perhaps to give people 2 weeks to let us know they're interested? I know people often let you know they're interested when there's no vacancy, but when something comes up, hey, there's a chance here, people's priorities change and they might be interested. Would that be something you would consider?
I think it would be helpful if we didn't have any good candidates. So what I guess what I'm saying is if you have good candidates, now I don't know that we do, we haven't interviewed these people, but if they are good candidates, then turn around and say, well, thanks, but we're going to go ahead and look for other people beside you. I don't know. I think if we have good applicants in front of us that went out of their way to to reach out to us, say, here, I'm interested, to sort of sidestep them and go, well, we're going to go look and see what else is available. It's kind of, I don't think it's a good look for us.
So, how did the applicants know then about his or is these, were these in your file?
One was in the file. We had received it earlier this year, based on our outreach regarding the Recreation Ad Hoc Committee, and the other one is a neighbor of Mr. Angelo's.
Okay, and that's why I was asking, because the in his memo he did suggest that he had possibly had some neighbors that would be interested, and I would certainly entertain a referral from someone like him. But I haven't really studied those applicants, so I can't make a determination myself. My gut feeling is to probably give us a period here, and then maybe at the next meeting.
I think we vet these people, and if we don't, if they're not what we're looking for, then as Commissioner Kutz said, we put the ad out on Facebook and try to get some additional interest.
Right. And then maybe in the future, we can look at, a standard procedure of when openings become available, maybe we put it out there or something like that, but we'll just we'll take that as it comes right now.
The second item there is a similar item. We do have the resignation of Pedrick Young from the Lower Allen Township Development Authority, and pointing to the discussion held earlier in the meeting, I believe this is something that probably will garner a lot more discussion than a Parks and Rec board member. But so again, this is kind of up to the board how you want to proceed with this, how you want. We do have some applications from folks that we've gathered over the past several years who were interested in the Development Authority. I don't think we supplied those to you yet. But we will give you those. And again, if this is something that maybe you want to advertise for, I don't know how you want to replace this position or who you want to replace it with. So just bring it up right now. I'm sorry, I guess I should have asked the board to take action to accept the resignation of Charles Angelo from.
Yeah, I was going to come back to it, but I saw you had it only for discussion, so I didn't want to bring it back unless you feel you want to change that to some action. I don't think we would have a problem getting that action tonight. I could be wrong.
Well, yeah, he was appointed by the board, so we should probably have the board accept his resignation.
Well, I make a motion that we accept the resignation of Charles Angelo from the Recreation and Parks Board.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Motion for Commissioner Shin, a second from Commissioner Kutz to accept the resignation of Charles Angelo from the Recreation and Parks Board. Any further discussion?
Yeah, my only concern is that we weren't able to talk him out of moving to Hampton Township or wherever he's going.
Yeah, I had a great conversation with this fellow.
He didn't tell me he was looking, because I think he knew I'd try to do that.
That's right.
Yeah, he's a real go-getter. I walked the parks with him a couple times. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, well, regretfully, that passes 4-0.
Mr. President, while we're on the subject, I'll move to accept the resignation of Pedrick M. Young Sr. from the Lower Allen Township Development Authority, regretfully, and we'll note for the record our gratitude to former Commissioner Young for his many, many years of service to our township and our residents.
Second, admittedly.
I have a motion from Commissioner Kutz and a second from Commissioner Shin. And yes, regretfully, I'll be voting for this at PED's request, and this I thought was very nice memo he sent us. PED, I'll hold a place in my heart for PED. I mean, PED's essentially responsible for me at this time, at that time for me coming on to the Board of Commissioners. And so I am very grateful that I had this opportunity earlier than maybe I had thought I would, to be able to serve on this board and the residents of the township. And he's got some really big shoes to follow. He's got a long history of doing great things in service, both in Lower Allen and elsewhere. So Ped, if you're listening, or if you ever get a chance to hear this, know that this does not come lightly to accept your resignation, but we wish you well.
It was an honor to serve with him for many years. Thank you, Ped.
Well, I'll call for it. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries regretfully 4-0.
And Mr. President, if I may pick up where the manager left off before we took action on those two items, I would feel most comfortable with public advertisement for the Development Authority vacancy. I think that deserves a full vetting by township staff and the commissioners, recognizing it's our purview to appoint members to our boards, commissions, and authorities. It's a responsibility we should not take lightly, and as such, I think especially with a multi-million-dollar project going on in the township, it's in our residents' best interest to bring full light to the Development Authority and accept as many applications as we can, and thoroughly vet them and see who we would think would be the best fit, so that we as the elected commissioners can make the appointment to a board that serves at our pleasure.
Is that it, Commissioner?
That's it. Thank you, Mr. President.
You bet. Okay, moving on, Tom, the D, right? Yep. Did the signboard?
Yep.
So you're muted, Tom.
Thank you.
Now we're getting this.
You have to start over.
It's got to happen. It's got to happen at least once per meeting.
I'm telling you, I've been trying to work the mute button and I keep forgetting.
Anyway, this is for the replacement of the digital signboard out front in the amount of $23,641. This is purchased from Strickler Signs. It is part of CoStar's, and it is a budgeted item. This item did get a lot of discussion during budget.
Yeah, I remember, I think I kicked off the discussion on this, but I have to tell you, I'm really for this. I believe any communication we can give to our residents, anything we can do would be helpful. And I think this new sign's gonna work out well.
Well, Mr. President, in that case, I would be glad to make the motion to purchase the replacement digital signboard in the amount of $23,641 from Strickler Signs, being this is a budgeted item.
Second.
I
have discussion.
Yes, sir. Commissioner.
Mr. Manager, I'm just curious, what was the budgeted amount? I recall it being right around 20, since we didn't have an exact number. Do you happen to have that handy?
I think it was 24, 25.
Oh, yeah, it was 25,000.
Okay, perfect. What happens with the extra 1,400 that's budgeted? Can we just put that right back into the fund balance?
Well, it stays in the fund balance. It doesn't come out of the fund balance.
That's fantastic. All right. Thank you, Mr. President.
Call for the question?
All right, I have a motion and a second on the question. Hope the Secretary got them both. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Item E, with your permission, Mr. President, I'd like to remove from the agenda and not have the board act on that tonight. There's some additional research that our fleet manager is doing regarding dump trucks in general. The MAC did come in well over budget. He's taking a look at some other trucks right now. We're also using an incorrect budgeted figure which was the original amount, which was a tandem. And then they decided to move away. You probably remember that discussion too, from the budget, where they decided to move away from the tandem. So that really, I don't think we're ready to make that purchase right now. So I would like to just remove that from the agenda.
Okay, removed.
And then the final item is purchase of a 2021 John Deere wheel loader to replace our 2006 case wheel loader. That's $171,900. Again, this also is in the budget and is a CoStar's purchase. And Rick, the budgeted amount?
$172,000.
Yeah, pretty close.
Hit that one right on the head.
We'll be leaving that $100 in the fund balance.
We'll leave it in. What is a wheel loader? What is a wheel loader?
It's as opposed to a track loader. A wheel loader just has it's a front end loader. It has wheels instead of like a Caterpillar, like a tractor.
Okay.
Like a track hoe.
Yep. Okay.
So so we'd be looking to purchase this budgeted item. And as we well know, during the budget process, at least for the last 3 I've been involved with, our Public Works Department, they don't take their spending lightly. They're real tight in there. So I gotta believe if they are ready to buy this, they need it.
Yeah,
I'm willing to make a motion to purchase the 2021 John Deere wheel loader to replace a 2006 case wheel loader for $171,900. This is a budgeted item and it's under budget.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. And just to confirm, Director Grove, did we budget all together with this in total the revenue we would get from the replacement, or are we not selling it?
I can't remember offhand. I normally look that up. I just forgot, but I don't even know if we're trading anything in on this one.
Okay, I just wanted to know for sure.
Hang on, I can tell you.
Okay. And the reason is we hit the budget number so close. I thought that I would just be curious to know.
We're expecting $20,000 on a trade on this one.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
So we could see $20,000 coming back potentially later in the year.
The net cost will probably be $152, I guess.
Great. So it's significantly more under budget. That's
Good question, Mr. President.
we try every now and then. I come up with a trinket.
I'm never disappointed.
All right. All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Wow.
That is all I have tonight.
All right. So Commissioner reports, after Commissioner reports this evening, we'll be going into an executive session. Mr. Solicitor, are we coming out of there to possibly make a motion or take action?
You do not. I mean, this is sort of a general discussion because there are a number of hotel appeals. So I sort of want to get commissioner input, but I do not have any settlement demand at this point.
Okay. So we will be, when that time comes, we'll be adjourning.
You may adjourn. Correct, Mr. President.
Thank you. All right. For commissioner reports, I'm going to kick us off this evening, and I do not believe there's a dramatic retirement to follow up. But I'm going to kick us off anyway, and I'll be quick. Tonight we had some great spirited discussion, and I tell you, I'm happy that these Zoom meetings that we've actually got to work them out, and eventually we'll be in person again. But for the public health and safety, for now we're going to be we're going to be on Zoom until I guess the numbers come into a safe zone. And then we'll keep close with that. I'm in conversation with the management and Director Hall occasionally throughout these 2-week intervals when we're supposed to meet, just to make sure that those decisions are made appropriately and responsibly. And then, as you know, I contact most of or all of these and try to get your input as to what we should do. And I appreciate everybody's being reasonable about this process. The only other thing, we had some great spirited conversations tonight. I think it's time, Tom, that we really look at scheduling. I won't even call it strategic planning, but that would be helpful because that's a lot of work. But maybe it's time to put 1 or 2 meetings on the agenda, maybe on a Saturday or a day during the week. Zoom, we can, we're going to be on Zoom, and I think we can handle those in this process. That maybe we start talking about some, what our long-term goals and objectives are, even if it's just out for the rest of this year and maybe the next, couple years, to make sure we're all on the same page. I know it's something that when I came on, we did. And then last year, I think it was last year, when I brought it up, the idea was that we would wait till Commissioner Kutz got elected or came on board, I think is what it was, or made it through his first, period of time. And so it's probably a good time right now, I think, for us to start looking at that. And I'm not ordering it. I'm just asking for input from everybody else. If we'd be interested, maybe, maybe sometime late in February or March or early spring to take a Saturday or 2 with some focus on just some general idea of getting us all on the same page of what we want to put management on doing, particularly for the rest of this year as they go into the budget season and then into, maybe the years moving forward.
Mr. President, I've been a part of some corporate, they call them retreats. And you didn't have to go away and spend the night anywhere in a hotel room, but it was a retreat. Okay, it was like a Saturday morning, an opportunity to rub elbows a little bit and do what you suggested, to get some ideas out in more of an informal way of working with each other. And they can be helpful.
Yeah, my goal would be that we, of course, we're not going to always agree on everything, and we may not agree on much, but at least we know where everybody stands and that our management and the board can have an idea of how to proceed as smoothly as possible with getting our work done, for the residents and the stakeholder township. I don't know, Tom, do you want to add anything to that? I mean, I haven't mentioned this to you recently, but we've talked about it.
Yeah, kind of I had a longer term plan for strategic planning. And when I say strategic planning, I'm talking about the kind of thing that Commissioner Shin's referring to. It's more of a corporate, it's the what they call the old SWOT method, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and it really make a day of it. That's considered kind of old fashioned. Strategic planning these days seems to be more, project focused, which I don't want to do that. I would rather, I think every once in a while we do need to do it the old fashioned way because it's pretty, it's pretty encompassing. What I wanted to do was wait until after we did some kind of a recreation ad hoc meeting, which of course got, delayed because of COVID and everything. But there's several highly visible township services competing for resources. We just finished a public safety ad hoc meeting to get the public's input. Unfortunately, not a lot of the public participated, but recreation I think is also very important. As the last comp plan told us, people told us that they're very interested in open space and pedestrian bike and recreation. So I'd like to get the public's input on that. And then really get together and have once the board knows the thinking on public safety and public and recreation and even development, redevelopment, That may get you a more, better result. The downside is that the best time for that to happen would be next year, not this year. But if you want to, but doing something this year would be helpful too, in discussing projects going forward.
You're saying doing something this year to discuss projects going forward?
On a smaller scale, yeah, not any kind of a grand encompassing plan. I wouldn't call it a strategic plan. I think a lot more groundwork needs to be laid for a good strategic plan.
Mr. President, I think, if we do a full strategic planning next year, early next year, that would be fine. But I think it would be imperative for us to sit down this year to discuss some basic policy and cultural changes that several of the commissioners have been discussing for the last year. Last year, the voters elected new leadership for Lower Allen, and we've delivered on several of those promises this year already. And I think there are several other good things that we can do. But I think it would require commissioners being able to sit down with staff and kind of go through some of the practical policy and cultural changes that we're interested in. So, Mr. President, I would love to get together, as Commissioner Shin, my esteemed colleague, mentioned, in a sort of manner that would allow an open discussion to be facilitated among certainly a group, be it senior staff and commissioners. I think that would be very fruitful to happen as soon as possible.
So, I mean, that's what, and Tom, I appreciate the longer term thing, and I think that's what we need to do. I was thinking in terms of that, like what Commissioner Kutz is saying too, and I guess what Commissioner Shin was saying, maybe just a Saturday. And I don't know, Steve would have to chime in. Is it something that, as long as we advertised it, I guess what happens is we have a nice long agenda and we got a lot of stuff done tonight, but then we get sidetracked and maybe certain things that are, we might feel strongly about. I don't mention things often just because I want to keep things going too. And I'm thinking more just to kind of get everybody on the same page, at least an understanding.
Steve, workshops like that they don't have to be advertised, do they?
Typically, if it's educational only and you go into it knowing that you're not going to deliberate or take any action, that's permissible without advertisement, right?
Okay.
Well, I think it would be educational, but at the same time, I think we want to have a conversation among commissioners to reach a consensus to tell staff about changes we'd like to see and make. So I think it would definitely have some discussion. It's not going to be purely educational. I think the purpose is to facilitate a discussion between commissioners and staff that may very well result in some internal policy changes.
But not there on the spot, not that day. I think that's the key. We're not getting together to make to do anything formal vote taking or anything like that.
Sure. I just want to make sure that was laid out what I was envisioning.
Right. And I just want to reiterate too, we always have the ability to meet with staff individually. I mean, there's restrictions on us meeting together about things. So you can always, communicate directly, obviously in this case, to Tom on issues, or if you had a legal question, obviously you just call Steve, I guess. But yeah, so I don't know, just a thought. I don't want to, beat this up, and maybe we just think about it. And then, if it's something that's doable, I think it would be helpful. I'm all about just communication. And I think anytime we can have some open discussions, it'd be helpful. That's all. That's all I'm gonna say tonight. So I'll start with Steve Miner.
Nothing further other than my executive session matter.
Okay. Director Grove?
Nothing tonight, thanks.
Okay. Tom Bruno, Tom, you have anything else?
I have nothing further. No.
Okay, thank you. John Eby?
Yes, thanks, Mr. President. Just a few comments about Ped Young. I share your regret about his resignation. I've worked here over 35 years, so I had the pleasure during many of those years to work for PED as an employee. I'm a 31 plus year resident of the township, so I appreciate my appointment on the Development Authority Board, served with PED for the 13 years that he's been on the board as an original member. And finally, I'm hopefully that our solicitation of candidates for volunteers to serve on the Development Authority Board will present candidates who will complement or supplement the skill sets that current members bring to the mission of the Development Authority. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eby. It's changing on me again. All right. Where's Dan? I just saw him. Dan Flint, you still here?
Yes, I have nothing further. Thank you.
Oh, there you are. Okay, great. Director Hall?
Only that we will, as we move forward with our body cam program, we'll be happy to keep the board up to date on and up to speed on what's going on with that, and at some point provide a demonstration of how that whole system works and the benefits to the township. So I appreciate all your support on all the public safety areas tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Captain Crone?
Yes, thank you for your approvals this evening. We should be able to get the command staff in line now as far as everybody in their place. And I meant that in a good way. Then we can move forward and make some things happen. So thank you.
Great. Thank you. How's the morale with the troops, so to speak?
It's all right. Of course, everybody's concerned about how things are progressing and what the changes that have come mean to, you know, the profession and the industry. But everybody's got their nose to the grindstone and chin up. So they're working.
Great.
It's tough to work in that position, but chin up and nose to the grindstone.
Aaron?
I don't have anything further for tonight.
All right, thank you. Tony? There he is.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Tina?
I'm good.
All right, thank you.
I'm from Florida.
He's in Florida right now.
I know. Jealous. I see you got a load down there.
We did. We took, yep, first load of stuff.
All right. Cool. Thanks for being here tonight with us. Brad.
Nope, nothing to add for me.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks again for being on board.
Yep.
Let's see. I don't know who the Samsung is, but if you want to say something, feel free to unmute. Okay, and then I see we have a Joshua Nagy. I know Joshua Nagy. Hi, Josh.
Nothing at this time, Mr. President.
Okay, thanks. Thought I'd just give everybody who hung out with us an opportunity. That's it for everybody but commissioners. So Commissioner Shin.
I have nothing tonight. It was a spirited meeting, and nobody. I don't think anybody fell asleep. Thank you, Mr. President. Nothing.
All right, Commissioner Black.
I don't really have any new comments, but I have a question for Leon on one of his comments. Are the troops concerned about what's happening nationally, Leon?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Certainly. I mean, everything you see in the news, what went on in Washington, D.C., what's happening out in Seattle, all of these things weigh heavy on police officers everywhere. But we recognize where we work and the environment we're in here, and take faith in that. We're not completely insulated from the outside world as far as those kinds of things go, but we certainly work in a different environment here.
And I hope that means a better environment.
Yes, it does.
Good.
Always hope for that. All right.
That's all I have, Mr. President.
Okay.
Well,
Sorry.
no, one further question.
Yes.
I had asked, Leon, I asked you and Dave if you're in favor of the body cameras. How about the troops? Are they in favor of them?
Yeah, by and large, yes. Nobody's really voiced any objection. A lot of the people I've talked to kind of look forward to it just so that they have their own version of events. Most officers know that they're going to be recorded by somebody. When that recording begins and when that recording ends is out of their hands. So if they have their own means to record these encounters, they can get what preceded, for example, a use of force event, everything that came before that, as opposed to just getting the event, which never looks good on film, but you need all the stuff leading up to it to put it in context.
That's a good explanation. Thank you, Leon.
And it's also my understanding, Leon, and Dave, on radar, as you guys probably already know, it's making its way back through the process in this new legislative session. And I was told in a meeting I was in 2 weeks ago that don't get discouraged in what you might see in the of its initial kind of face at the moment. And in fact, it'll probably take more of the form of where it was going to possibly end the last time, but there's no guarantees. But I would expect you'll see some movement on that legislation, in the next couple of months for sure.
To be fair, I won't be holding my breath on that one because almost 6 years now, it's been on its way. So when it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, we're not going to sweat over it.
Yeah.
One of those things that we have a lot of patience on. I waited my entire law enforcement career for them to even actually bring it up and talk about it. At least that's happening now.
Yeah.
So, if it happens, that's wonderful because I think it would serve the community. And I think all the reasons why it would be a positive thing have been put out there. So hopefully it goes through at some point.
Yep. All right. Commissioner Kutz.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, since I didn't get a chance last meeting, let me congratulate my esteemed colleague, Commissioner Shin, on your retirement. We're going to miss you around here. Can always count on you to leave no stone unturned. I enjoy sitting next to you at the dais and peering over and seeing your highlights and circles and colored pens of things to talk about. You push me to do my research and make sure that I'm prepared for every item that comes before us. And you've set an example as to what a good public servant should be. And I appreciate that. And Commissioner Shin was instrumental in getting me to run in the first place. We had talked several times about it. It goes way back to when my grandmother actually worked with Commissioner Shin to get him on the board in the first place many years ago. So, Commissioner, I'm glad to see things come full circle. It's an honor to be here and have you as a colleague. I certainly hope to pick up your torch and carry it with your thoughtful discussion and your ideas that you bring to the board. So thank you and congratulations.
Thank you. It's very kind of you. Thank you.
Mr. President, I also want to just give a shout out to our manager. Tom has been helpful to me over the course of my first year here as I've eclipsed the 1 year mark on the board, and it's been a whirlwind of a year. Never could have predicted the challenges that we would face this year when I took the oath last January. But there's one person for me that it's always been there to answer questions. And I just want to thank you, Tom, for taking the time out of your busy day. I'll pop into the office and, Tom will take an hour, 2 hours, whatever it takes to make sure that I understand everything. So Tom, I appreciate your thoughtful discussion and candor. We have, as evident by your award last year, one of the best managers in the business. We're glad to have you. I'm appreciative being here, getting through the 1 year mark of everything we've been able to do. Our staff does play a vital role in making sure we're prepared, providing agenda memos with the information so that we have all the information necessary to make the decisions that we believe are right. Sometimes we don't always agree on decisions, but I still appreciate the conversation and the debate that we're able to have with one another. So, Mr. President, with a year down and under the belt, I look forward to more thoughtful debate and discussion this year with all my fellow commissioners. It's an honor to serve with you. Mr. President, thank you for your leadership, and just look forward to hopefully what will be a fruitful year for us as we lead out of this pandemic. So thank you, and with that, I will yield back.
All right, thank you. So if there's nothing more for the good of the order, I'm going to adjourn this meeting to executive session. And thank you, everybody, for hanging out and being here and contributing. We'll see you next time.
So, yeah, the folks staying for executive session, just sit tight. If everybody else should just be logging out since we're not coming back. But if there's anybody remaining who shouldn't be here, I'm going to move you. Yep, everybody logged out.
Might want to give Rick a minute. He seems like he probably had to take a
Yeah, probably. It was a longer meeting than I thought.
Yeah,
Even with the length of it, 4 pages, I was looking at the individual items and saying, well, these aren't going to generate much discussion individually, maybe 1 or 2 of them, but the Bethany Village thing, that was a lot of discussion.
Yeah, and yeah.
So yeah, we're going on 2 hours and 40. Well, it's 2 hours and 45 minutes so far.
At least we don't have the drive over and the drive. Well, you do. The drive.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it's like out there, but
Hey,
I'll take it slow.
Thank God we started at 6, though. I mean, it keeps us an hour